I should have called you earlier with that, but
No, it's okay.
So, all right. So I'll call the special board meeting of February 23rd to order. And Bambi, let the minutes show that we have an established quorum and we are having a meeting by Zoom due to weather and other circumstances. And we only have one item to discuss, and that's the action item of personnel policy changes. So, Mr. Wiggins, would you like to walk us through that?
Yes, sir. So the personnel policies, classified and certified, had proposed 4 policies to you all, or policy changes to you all at the last board meeting, and you all tabled those. The ones they presented were 3.38, 3.40, 8.38, and 8.40. So that is 2 policies in certified and 2 policies in classified. And basically they are the exact same policy, but we have separate chapters in the book for certified and classified. So I thought the easiest way to discuss this, you only have 2 of them in the packet that I sent you. And that is the 3.38 and the 3.40. So that's the certified versions. But when we talk about those, the classified version is exactly the same. So if you all are going to vote to change something, we will vote to change it in both and then send it back to them as a proposed policy.
Okay.
So the first one we can do one at a time. I'm going to start with 3.40, and it's twin version in the classified 8.40. And this is licensed personnel retirement pay for accumulated sick leave. Basically, they just suggested taking 1, 2, 3, 5 words out of that policy. And it is in the first sentence of the policy. They wanted to take in excess of 30 days out of that policy. So the effect of that would be that we would pay for all sick days accumulated at retirement rather than all of them after the first 30. So currently what we do, our sick leave policy is such that a person can build up to 90 days of carryover sick leave over the course of a career. If you go over 90, we pay them out yearly to get back down to 90. And then at retirement, we pay out of that possible 90, we would paid out down to 30, and they would not get paid for the last 30. And we are the only district that I know of that does it that way. And John had, Mr. Blair, our classified representative, had provided us a table with some information. We were the only ones of the schools that he compared us to that did it that way. I think at some point that was done as a cost savings. I've talked to Terry about this, and I don't know that Terry has an issue with it. Terry, if you'd like to speak up, you may.
No, I actually put, I'm sorry, guys. This is the neighborhood cat that has decided to visit me this afternoon. So I look back over the years at exactly how many, on average, how many people we have retire every year. And we have anywhere from 5 to 7 people retire. What this would do, it would give them an additional $3,000 that would go into their retirement so that their monthly checks would be higher. So the monthly checks would be higher. It would basically cost the district $15,000 a year. So as far as a cost, plus, retirement and payroll taxes, but it's not a huge expense at all for us. Fortunately, we have a safety net of a carryover. So I don't see any problems with paying these out.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start the discussion. I didn't realize that policy was like that, and I don't have any problem with changing that to the full 90. I think they've earned that. So I'm good with it.
I agree with that.
I'm in agreement as well.
Yep, same here.
Same.
So, all right. So if we're all in agreement with that, we need probably let's separate these out. Let's do different motions and votes on each policy. So I'll need a motion and a second.
Can we put a motion for both of those?
I do it separately because they're different policies.
Well, I mean, for classified and
Yes,
Certified
because they mirror one another, right?
I make a motion to accept the policy change, removing the verbiage in excess of 30 days from both for classified and certified. Is that how it works?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
I
Opposed? All right. Motion carries, and now we'll move on to vacation. Mr. Wiggins, you want to get us started with that one?
I think
I think we lost Jody.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, I think we lost Jody.
His battery died. He's having to
Sorry.
reboot his electricity real quick.
Catastrophe.
Said it might just be a minute or so.
Sorry.
Welcome back, Jody.
So did y'all get everything taken care of?
Almost.
Or Cara.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so we approved the sick leave change of the 30 days, and now we're waiting on you to tackle the vacation.
Okay, so the vacation day is 3.38 or 8.38. There were two things that I think I had a little concern over. One is in the second paragraph. First of all, this is a brand new policy. So we have not had this policy prior, but the text of the policy as it's written came directly from Arkansas School Board Association with, there were some fill in the blank spots for the number of days and so forth. And so the Personnel Policies Committee filled in the blanks, but they also took out one little phrase in the second paragraph. And that is, it says that all vacation time must be approved. And then in the next little section in ASBA, there's a comma and it says in advance to the extent practicable, comma. And then it continues with superintendent or designee who shall consider the staffing needs of the district in making his or her determination. I would prefer not to take that phrase out. I would rather keep that in so that they do have to give us advance notice. when possible. I think that makes it easier to deal with. And then the other issue was they had suggested a total of 20 vacation days, that you could build up to 20. That is a little concerning to me. And I think we might need to have some discussion on what that number should be.
Jody, do you know why they wanted to take that first statement out? The in
I do not.
advance?
I do not.
Well, that's concerning to me as well. I think it needs to be kept in the policy, because I think you need to be able to plan and coordinate from an administrative level.
Mhm.
I definitely agree with that, Audrey, that, you know, I don't think it's fair to well, first of all, this is a whole new deal for us to even allow vacation. And so in order for that to happen, I agree with you that there has to be planning, and it's just the proper procedures that if you want to go on vacation, you get the okay of your supervisor, whoever that may be, and then on up to superintendent if need be. But I know that's the way it is in private business. You don't just decide, on a Friday, well, I'm going to go take vacation for a week. You know, that just doesn't happen. So I agree completely. And now let's discuss the days.
Can I,
And
sorry,
Jody,
I've
sorry.
got one
Yeah.
question on that.
Okay.
So what would be the time frame? I mean, so it's saying must be approved in advance to the extent practicable. Does that vary? I mean, who's this? Well, I don't know. I'm just wondering if we need a specific time frame in there. 2 weeks prior, 4 weeks prior. I don't know what it would be, but
Or 24 hours prior.
I think
No, ours is 7 days in advance.
right.
It states minimum of 7 days in advance.
Because I'm very much of, the person's vacation time is their vacation time. And if they get it in, say if we said 7 days, now there might be some reason why they couldn't take it, but if they got it in before 7 days, and I'm, as I manage people, it's their time. If they get it in on time, they can take it. And I just wondered if, do we need a specific date in there? We might not, and that's totally fine, but
I think that's a good idea, Travis.
because this in advance to the extent practical, I mean, if whoever the manager is in my, world, if it's 2 months in advance that they ask for it, and they might still say, no, sorry, for whatever reason, you didn't get it into me in time, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I
that
wanna-
last minute things happen though, and they need to have that flexibility. So maybe we could say 7 days, or and have both in there for the flexibility of the supervisor and the personnel to decide if that's going to be possible or not. So in other words, if it's less than 7 days, if it's 6 or 5, and it would work just fine, then they should be able to go ahead and approve that if they see fit.
so. How about if you wanted to put a number in there? How about keep the same wording? All vacation time must be approved, comma, at least, say a number, in advance to the extent practical. That way it does give us an out if something comes up and they had an emergency situation.
Jody, don't we have a policy on how much in advance personal days have to be approved? Or is that just a practice? I'm asking because I don't know.
There's a suggestion, I think, and I don't remember, I don't have my policy book in front of me.
I don't either.
So can the 7 days be a suggestion?
Mhm.
As well? That's all I was thinking. because I like having a time frame in there, but if it's not possible, I don't think they should be punished and just say, no, there's just no way that can be an option.
Well, I think that's where the in advance to the extent practicable comes into play, 7 days in advance minimum. And then, I mean, we have employees that have flat tires, don't have, and ask for that day off that they're not going to be here anyway. And we'll let them use a sick or vacation day.
Yeah.
And, it's either they're not going to be here and not get paid, or we let them still not be here and get paid, and it works out either way for us. So,
I-
and they can't predict that, so.
I think,
Unexpected life events happen,
Yeah.
basically.
So I think keeping that part in there that is highlighted covers that as well. But I think it's important to have the 7 days, especially more so for the schools than for us, because figure and substitute for that long period of time, plus everything else, I would assume would be a more of advantage. I don't know that process as well, but.
and also the personnel, the classified where you've got cooks and you have bus drivers, and if everybody's asking off the same time, it's not going to work. So.
Okay, so I agree with all of that. Just to make sure you all are aware, these policies are for 240-day employees. That's full-time employees, year-round employees. So is limited to some degree. So like our cooks and our bus drivers aren't year-round employees. This is mainly administrators, office personnel, maintenance, technology is basically who this affects, because it's our full-time year-round employees.
Okay.
And you said we do not know why they were taking this out, right?
I do not know.
Jody, to answer your question, I pulled the policy up, or for Terry's question, I pulled the policy up and looked at it on personal days. It's 2 days notice for personal days.
Is that suggested or a must?
It's
I think that's the current
You worked
policy
around.
that relates to personal days, right?
Yes, it relates to personal days only, and it is a must. But it does say it can be waived under extenuating circumstances as approved by the supervisor, building principal, or director.
Yeah, I like that.
I like the
So-
staying with the consistency of another policy. And it's lesser time.
So Shane and Amy and Terry, what are y'all's feelings on it?
And this will affect a lot of my folks and my directors and a lot of their people that are under there. And we do need notice, but we would like to have latitude, because sometimes for crazy things do happen and they need to take a vacation day because maybe they had an extenuating circumstance or a medical issue that ate up all of their sick leave and for the year. And then all of a sudden they have another deal pop up where they have to take off. So they need we need some flexibility, but it would be very detrimental if we didn't have forced planning for work in our departments, based on the fact if somebody just called in that morning and said, I'm taking 2 vacation days, we'll see y'all next week.
Right.
And that would create an issue for us. And I don't think we have really good people, and I don't think it's something we would deal with very often, because they take great pride in their work, but also realize it could happen. And so we need to protect the district in that respect. That's my thought.
So is 2 days enough notice, or would you recommend,
The 7.
or something in between 2 and 7?
Can tell you that for most of the employees that this policy will affect, we do not need to search for subs. So that might help you guys decide what you need to do. There's only about 4, maybe 6 people that actually need a sub. So, as far as that goes, making sure we have classrooms covered and things, that's pretty minimal. Just wanted to throw that out there.
So I would probably suggest then 5 days, like a 5-day work week with also, the verbiage that leaves it open for the extreme circumstances, whatever that is.
That would be my recommendation from the directors. I can really see it being a problem if we had a project that we're getting ready to do and all of a sudden 2 days before we're getting ready to start, somebody decides to take vacation. And now that we have a lot of specialized people. And so a week gives us time to plan. But we also, if you put it in there where we have the flexibility, it allows us to go ahead and grant it if it's an extenuating circumstance.
I would agree with that. I was going to say I liked the idea of using the verbiage from the personnel policy piece about giving the latitude. So 5 days, I think, would be fine for our principals and different people that I specifically handle. Shane's departments are a little different because of projects and things that they have. But I do like that wordage that Shane read us from the actual policy, giving some latitude.
So I have a question. When we're talking of 5 days and 7 days, are we talking 5 work days? Are we talking 5 calendar days? So if you're talking calendar days, that's really 3 work days. So I think if we went with the 7 and said that's 7 calendar days, maybe even put that in there, 7 calendar days, then it would basically be 5 a week ahead during your work week. So like if they came in and said they're requesting a vacation on a Monday, so that would be 7 days, calendar days, and they would go on vacation the following Monday. Does that make sense, or am I messed up on something here?
I agree with you and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Travis said 5 working days a while ago, which would be 7 calendar days.
Right.
And I would prefer to specify that.
Okay.
Okay, so when we get to actually you all making a proposal back to them, we've got to be able to say exactly what it's going to say. So what I have from notes that I just took is that it would say all vacation time must be approved, comma, at least 7 calendar days in advance to the extent practicable, comma.
Right. Now, I don't know, other board members, are you good with that?
I mean, it doesn't match exactly the other policy that Shane read, but I think it's saying the same thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Jody, you'll need to also, I think we ought to put in there who's, because when you read that, it didn't say who needs to approve. So I think we need to state like in the other policy, if on the certified, it states building principal. We could do building principal or / direct supervisor.
It says superintendent or designee.
Yours does?
Yes, the policy says that.
Yeah, we just need to make sure I just want to make sure we have that in there when they propose that, who is going to approve that leave. And the superintendent designee really cleans it up. And now it works for both policies, that we don't have to talk about specifically building principals and classified directors. It just cleans it up, because then it allows the superintendent to tell whoever is going to do it. You can make that approval.
Audra and Misty, are you guys okay with the 7 calendar days?
Yes.
As long as they have the latitude, that's fine.
Right. And then for, like Grant said, maybe if they, have something happen, then they need to use 1 day, But I'm kind of thinking of like if they use the whole week, we ought to at least be able to have a whole week's notice prior to.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. All right, Jody, I think you've got that. So now let's talk about the carryover days.
Do we need to?
No, we'll do it all in one
Oh, okay.
because it's all in the same policy.
Gotcha.
So the way the third paragraph is written, they get 5 vacation days per year and they can carry over up to 5. And then it gives a maximum that they can have at any given time of 20. The 20 is a little bit concerning to me because there's also non-contracted days for these employees to consider, and they have 10 of those per year. So if we go up to 20 in vacation days, that gives the possibility of someone having 30 days in any given year if they build up to that. And that for us is, that's a month and a half
Plus their personal days.
plus personal days. So I have a little concern on the 20. I would prefer something smaller than that.
What are the other districts? Do we have any comparisons?
They're all over the board and anywhere from 10 to, I know one district allowed, or a couple allowed 20, and then some of them allowed a lot more than that. But you can get in with the vacation days, we have to pay full daily rate of pay. The sick days on the other policy are paid at sub pay. At full daily rate of pay, we can get into, you know, if somebody retires and they have 20 days, you can be looking at a significant amount plus their sick days. So I would prefer that number be a little smaller.
Well, I'm good with the 5 days per year, and I like the carryover of 10 maximum.
Total of
And
10.
now,
Okay.
I have a question on that because I've been thinking about it. So we start this next year. That is correct. If we agree to these policies, it starts July 1st.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. So they'll get 5 the first year and they don't use them. And then they'll get 5 the second year and they don't use them. So they have their carryover of 10. And then the third year, then they get 5 more. So now they have a total of 15. So by what we're saying on the carryover maximum of 10, so then they will have to use those 5 days. Is that
They
correct?
would have to use those 5 before the end of that second year, yes,
Yes.
Or lose them?
or lose them.
And well, that's where I was
There.
getting to, was the whole point of vacation is to use it, go ahead and have a carryover. But so I was going to bring up the question of use it or lose it or pay it out. Those 5 days. Terry?
I would prefer, from an auditor standpoint, it's very suspicious when you give your employees time to take off and they do not take it off. An auditor always, that's a red flag for an auditor. And it's what are they doing that they don't think they can take off the time that is given to them. Now, I understand rolling over a certain amount of days in case somebody wants to do a big vacation to Europe or, I like having the latitude to do that. But I don't like the thought of paying them out. We already pay out sick days above 90. And so I think if we're giving everyone an opportunity to take off from work, from an auditor standpoint, that's what they need to do.
That's where I was going with that. Good. Well,
Miss-
that's my, and Missy, what you said, that's what I was saying, that when they get to their 10 and then they have the 15, the maximum carryover is 10. So they either use it or lose it.
Yeah, and it would encourage them to take
To
the
use
time that they need. Yeah. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Shane, you were going to chime in?
Yes, sir. The way the policy is presented from the PPC is written. If we're not talking about the number of days, but just the way that it's written that you put that number, there's numbers 20, you said 10, it means they're entitled to no more than, the way they've written it, they're entitled to no more than that number of days at the start of every year. So if they carried over, in your mind, 10, they don't get 5 more that next year. And they're not entitled to it, so we don't pay it out. So they actually presented you with a policy that gave a number, and once that number's met, they don't get any more and you don't have to pay them out. And I actually had this conversation with Mr. Wiggins, and I called the School Board Association just to make sure I was reading that right. And they said that is why the School Board Association put that in there. So that when you hit that max and they got a New Year's contract, you didn't have to pay them for whatever days.
So in effect, the way it's written, it is use it or lose it. I'll do that
Yes.
number is.
So then if they carry over 10 in the 2 years, the third year, they only get the 10 and not the 15.
Correct.
Is that the way you're saying it? Okay, see, I didn't so that maximum 10, whether they use it or not, then.
Correct.
So if they got to year 3, and let's say they'd only used 2, if we're using your number 10 and they'd used 2 and they still had 8, then they would only get 2 days added to that in that third year to get them back to 10, because they can never have more than 10. The way they presented it to you, it was presented as 20. They would never have more than 20. If you use the number you're talking about, or number 10, it would be 10.
Something else to think about with those balances is that anytime a employee leaves our district, whether by their choice or your choice, we are legally entitled to pay those days out at their daily rate. So if we allow someone to accumulate 15, 20 days, however many you all decide, at any time during the year that they leave, we legally have to pay those. Just an FYI, we don't have to do that with our other fringe benefits, but we will with vacation. There's a special designation for vacation days in
Oh, is
the
there?
law.
So it wouldn't be like the sick leave that carries over from district to district.
Right.
So maybe we change it to 15 days, or is that still too much?
That
Just
gives an
because if they
employee,
had-
it does give an employee in 1 year up to 5, almost 6 weeks of vacation or time off. I won't call it vacation.
Because of you're using personal days and vacation days.
And non-contract days.
So currently, Misty, our full-time employees, and I am one, I work 240 calendar days during the course of the year. And when you take all of our vacation days out, there's still about 10 or 11 days left over that we don't get paid for. And so that's time off for us right now, but it's not paid. It's not considered vacation because it's not paid. So all of the employees we're talking about currently get 2 weeks, either 10 or 11 days of non-paid time off. So the vacation is actually paid time off. It would be in addition to that.
Yeah.
And so what Terry's saying is if it builds up to 15 days of vacation or 20, then we're looking at 3 to 4 weeks plus that other 2 weeks of non-paid time off. And so then we're getting up to close to a month and a half, possibly. So that was my reason for saying I have a concern about 20 days. I would rather it be, I think 10 is reasonable.
You think
I
10 is
think 10 is reasonable. Other board members?
I think
What
10 is
did you say,
reasonable.
Brian? I didn't hear what Brian said. What did you say, Brian?
I said, I think 10 days is a reasonable number.
if
And
they
then Misty,
had-
what did you?
Well, I was just trying to think of if they had like a bucket list kind of family trip, but they could use vacation days and personal days to get there.
And
Okay, now.
non-contract days.
Europe or, yeah,
Right.
okay.
So really, with the 10 days vacation and the 2 weeks non-contract, that's really
That's a month.
4 weeks, right?
Yes.
How many personal days? Does that vary or is it?
You can get 240-day employees can get a maximum of 4.
So if they had 10 days, so remember what Shane told us though, they can never have more than the number we say. So, and I understand what Terry was saying, that we have to pay it out at their rate, which is a lot higher than the sub rate.
More than,
Maybe 12.
they can never have more than 10 or 20 or whatever number we settle on of vacation days. They
Right.
still get the non-contracted days like they have, and they'll still get the personal days like they have.
Non-contracted days are set days though, right?
No,
Oh, they're not.
Not up to now, they were time off as we asked for. They had to be approved, just like a vacation day will be. They had to be approved. They're set kind of in our calendar for the last 2 weeks of the year, which is the last 2 weeks of June. But most people have been taking them off. Some of them off at Christmas, some of them off at Thanksgiving.
And how many days is that? How many non-contract days?
That depends on the person
Yes.
because they had to actually ask for those days off.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So with this policy, one thing that we had talked to our PPC committees about was that if we give the vacation days, we are going to assign some of those non-contracted days to Christmas break so that nobody is working between Christmas and New Year's. So that takes them off the plate in June to some degree. But that was kind of a trade-off in trying to get this passed.
you also have to remember that our holidays are also unpaid days for 240-day employees. Currently, small lesson, you probably don't want to know this, but every year we have between 260 and 261 days available for us to work. Of those 61 days, 10 of those are non-contract days and we get the choice or get permission to use them during the year. Those are not paid. The other days are designated as holidays, but they are also unpaid. So when we are off 2 or 3 days at Christmas for the holiday, we are not getting paid for those days. That is standard. Just wanted to clear up when we're talking days and why this is such a great thing is these are actually paid days off. Any other days that we take off other than sick or personal are unpaid leave. Did that just add to the confusion? I'm sorry if it did.
Okay. Well, it just makes me want to give them more days. But financially, I mean, I don't know.
Y'all may all cringe at this, but I mean, right now we're looking at 5, which it's versus 0 right now. And then adding on 10 on top of that, that could be if you don't use them. I mean, and be it right or wrong, but I always look at it, something we can always look at and change down the road. You can always go up. It's very hard to take that time away.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and evolve.
That's a good point.
Very good. Very good. Okay. I think 10's good.
Audra?
I can support 10. But I agree with what Grant just said. we really need to think about it as a team and decide what is the right number. I know the proposal was 20 to start with, right?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think we all agreed that maybe that's too many.
Right. I agree with that. Is 10 the right number?
Jody, can they, if we present 10, can they turn around and come back with another number and or
They can, the way policies, if they present it to you all, you can vote on it at that time, or you can table it, which you did. If the board presents something to them, officially, they have 10 days to review it, and then the board can vote on it at any time after that, after the 10 days time period, and you can vote it whether they approve it or not. It will go into effect for next July 1st, or for this coming July 1st. They could come to the board meeting and they can suggest something different. And then we start that process over again, unless you all are wanting to vote on it right then. As long as they are presenting to you, you have the opportunity to vote right then or table it. If you are presenting to them, you have to wait at least 10 days after presenting to them to vote on it. And that's all in a very convoluted law.
I got
One
it.
other thing to think about when look at this too is, to get here, you have to go a year without using it. And then when you use it, I mean, you're not talking consecutive years that you're going to have this rollover days available all the time. It more than likely would be every other year if you took no vacation the year prior.
Mm. Good point.
So it's important to know that one of the things that John presented when he presented to you all was a narrative of why PPC felt this was important. And one of the reasons that was given was so that a person could take a 3-week vacation sometime to go to Canada or whatever. So they will still have that ability, even with 10 days of vacation and 5 days of non-contracted time, or even personal time. They would still have that opportunity if they planned ahead. Now, if we wanted to give somebody an opportunity to take a 4-week vacation, that may not be possible, or a 5-week vacation, that might not be possible. But this in and of itself would give somebody the ability to plan ahead and get at least 3 weeks consecutive at some point to take that bucket list trip.
just not all paid?
Correct.
Some of those days would be non-paid.
For the 3 weeks.
Yes.
See, that's the only thing I had a problem with.
I will like to point out though, if a 240 employee has 10 days built up and they're going to take off, they still have 4 personal days they could tack on. So that's just 1 day short of 3 weeks of work. So they're still, and those 4 days are personal days are paid.
Oh,
So
You
they're
have to
getting paid.
remember, we get the same amount of pay every month. Our contract is divided into 12 even pays. So it doesn't matter how much somebody works in a month, they get the same base pay for 12 months. So it's not like they're going to have a short check and not be able to pay their bills because 10 of those days were non-contract days.
okay.
You're basically
But-
like salaried employee is what it means
Yes.
to,
Yes,
on a year basis.
Yes.
but we do keep going to the 4 personal days, and that's not 4 personal days every year either. Those have to be built up over time.
But it's 3 every year.
It is 3 every year. You can
Yeah.
roll over 1 and you
So
can
that's how
add
you
3
get
to
4.
it to get the 4.
Okay.
4 is the maximum amount you can have in any year.
That was my point, is that if you planned ahead, you could build up an extra personal day to 4, plus you had your 10 vacation days, and you could take you're ready
Well,
to take 14 business days off.
and you could throw some sick days in there, couldn't you?
Nope, sick days are for sick days, or for sick people. They are not for vacation.
we have talked a lot. There's been a lot of talk about pay versus not paid. To be honest, this policy doesn't cost the district anything
Anything.
if the people take their vacation days. The only time it costs us anything is on the back end when somebody quits us, gets fired, or retires. So the only time we are actually paying out anything because of this policy is when somebody quits, they get fired, or they retire. So the more days we make that number, the more we are on the hook financially at the point that they either quit, get fired, or retire. Other than that, we're just talking about time off, really. And so in that effect, on a year-to-year basis, there's not going to be any difference between a non-contracted and a vacation day, because it's just really time off until we get to that back end and they're leaving us and we have to pay out vacation days.
Right. But that could be a substantial number. If you had, let's say, 4 administrators or 4 240 contract people leave the same year, and they each had 20 days built up, that's 80 days at, I don't know the average rate, but that's substantial. I personally like the 10. I like the 10, but that's just me. Anybody else want to chime in? Please.
I mean, my head was at 15, like not doing full 20. So 15 still might be too much. 12, can I hear 12?
How about 11?
12.5?
How about 11? So then they could do 3 weeks with their 4 personal too. Not that, again, like they said, it doesn't matter. I don't know.
I like the 10.
Okay,
Well,
Yeah, I'm fine with 10.
all right, me too.
Okay.
Audra?
I agree with 10.
Okay, so what I have now is the wording I read earlier for the second paragraph about giving notice, advance notice when practicable. And then in the third paragraph, change the 220s maximum of, and make them a maximum of 10 in that third paragraph. So I would show this to you, but I don't have that capability. But we will be.
I'm just teasing. We can't read it.
So I want you all to be clear if you're going to vote to send something back to them, exactly what it's going to be. Okay. So the first policy was the 3.40, which was sick leave, paying it at retirement, and everybody was okay with the way that they presented it. So we will say, we'll just present that right back to them exactly as is. And its sister policy for classified will be the exact same thing. And then the 3.38 policy, we will change the second paragraph to say all vacation time must be approved, comma, at least 7 calendar days in advance to the extent practicable, comma, by the superintendent or designee, blah, blah, blah. And then in the third paragraph, we will change the 2 places that it says 20 days maximum to 10 days maximum. And then in the classified sister policy to this, we will do the exact same thing.
Jody, can I ask a question?
Yes.
On the first 2 policies, the ones they approved as they agreed with as presented. Did they not just vote to approve them and they went into effect immediately because there's no changes?
I think Jody lost connection with us at that point. So I don't know that he heard us do that.
So
Did you?
the first two policies on sick leave, it's up to the board as to when they go into effect, because they presented it to you and you have the right to approve it right now, actually.
I think that's what you missed, Jody, is they actually voted to
They
approve.
did approve it.
Okay, but to approve those right now, effective immediately, we have to send that to a school-wide, district-wide vote,
Yes.
because it's in the middle of the year. So if you all approve that, I need direction on whether you want that to take effect immediately, or whether you want to take that to take effect July 1st with the new school year.
Well, I was voting with it with the assumption that it started at the new school year.
Okay, and I thought you said that earlier.
Yeah.
So
Let's make sure all the other board members, were you the same way as me, or were you thinking something different?
That was my assumption.
Okay.
Yeah, I maybe didn't word the motion correctly,
Well,
but that was kind of.
Yeah. to
Is that
take
what you're-
effect at the beginning of the next school year. Yeah.
okay, so I was off here then. Did we vote to approve those policies, or did we vote to present them back to the Personnel Policy Committee?
I think approved. I didn't know.
They did approve them, Jody. The first two. On vacation.
Okay.
Not vacation.
Well,
the
we
sick
can-
days.
we can
Okay, I'm
amend
not
our,
making motions ever again.
we can amend that, can't we?
Sure. I mean, I
Still?
can, and I'm willing to.
Yes, because at this point, it's vague as to what you meant, because there wasn't clarification on whether it was right
Okay.
on July 1st.
Okay, I would like to amend my motion earlier, Bambi, and thus revote on that. Just to clarify that we want it to just go back to the Personnel Policy Committee. That we, right? No? Okay,
You can do that, or you can just revise it to say that it's going to take effect July 1st.
okay. Let's do that.
Yes.
That. I want to amend it to take effect July 1st.
2022. Second.
Did we get a second? All right, all in favor of the amended motion? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay,
All right,
thank you, Shane. That cleared that up.
Swear to.
Now,
So then for the second set of policies, the licensed personnel vacations, I've read the changes that you all are proposing back to the Personnel Policies Committee. And if you would like to vote on that to send it back to them as amended, then I'll type this up, or Shane will type this up, and we'll get it back to them so that it can be voted on if we want to do that at the next board meeting.
yes. So what we're doing, we're making a motion to amend that policy and send it back to the Personnel Policy Committees.
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Oh, there you go. Did we get a second?
Second.
Grant seconded.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go, Jody.
Okay. Thank you all.
Any other business?
Like that much discussion, but I appreciate the discussion.
No, I think it was real healthy. I think that was good. Any other business?
No, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
There it is.
You
Second.
bet. Did we get a second from Travis?
Yep.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, guys. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining. And I know it wasn't the most easy meeting to follow with Zoom, but I appreciate your time.
Jody, you're
I think
listening.
it went well.
Jody,
Always
you're
plug in your
Karen
computer.
Noble. You're Karen
Well,
Noble today.
Yeah, lots of things went wrong on my end. I'm sorry.
You'll always have to have a plug in when you're on Zoom.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.